The COVID diet, it kind of,
You need anything in it.
yeah.
All right, well, we should have a short meeting here.
Yes.
Call the meeting to order. Everyone is in attendance. Stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public comments. For yours, Dennis, we can just go into the item and comment then, okay? Okay. Next, so we'll get a chance to read the minutes, the agenda. We'll be looking for a motion to set the agenda in minutes, approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to consent the agenda and approve the minutes from the November 18th, 2021 meeting.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Second. First by Rude, second by Johnson. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, so passed. Reports, Sheriff's report, we'll circle back to that.
I'd like to actually comment, so they said they couldn't be here, and they apologize, but I did email
Yes, they had to
everybody.
email you.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, that'll suffice.
Can I ask a question about
Yeah.
that? And I didn't think when I was in your office today, but I had a neighbor call me about, I believe it was 6 o'clock Wednesday morning, we heard something that sounded like a gunshot. Is there any indication of that? And it sounded very close to her house, because it was my next door neighbor that called me and said, did you hear that? And I said, yeah, I did.
I did not.
You did not? And it woke me up. I mean, I was asleep, but it woke me up.
On Wednesday?
I think it was Wednesday. She would know. I think it was Wednesday, yeah, she called me yesterday.
There's a lot of that going on right now, too.
There is. But this sounded, like she said, it sounded like it was right west. And I said,
It's 16.
on the other side.
Oh, really?
But we don't have any indication in our minutes of that, or the report from the sheriff's office, or anything. It's not.
They did look into, oh, yeah, they looked into the one that I brought up, and there was something wrong.
Yeah.
They did check it out.
They're really good, yeah.
And they couldn't find anything, so.
There's usually not much you can do unless there's damage or someone's,
Right.
or a needle in a haystack, an invisible needle at that point.
Yeah.
All right then, President's report. We are continuing on with discussions for leasing Building 2. Linda Study. I always screw that up. Her lease is at an end and she is not going to renew. So the tenant that was previously looking at the B side of Building 2 is now looking at the A side, which is less construction costs. We're working on some details still for the construction. To me, it's just items that were construction related on the B side that needed to be done to make it an occupiable space versus on the A side now, which that's the side we remediated the floor. It's in much better shape. Now these seem to be finishes that the tenant more so desires than what we needed to do to just get it to a baseline. So that's something I'm still working on this one, which is actually right in front of me here. Other than that, everyone's probably seen now, we've got about 1 million stakes out in the village from the asphalt contractors, so we'll see what it's going to be. The letter was sent out in the newsletter about the items for plowing, the differences. So there's going to be some growing pains on this one, so when you get issues, complaints, things like that, just forward them all on to me and Chris so that we can have a collective idea or understanding of what's going on here. And it's pretty much about it. Okay. Trustee Barrios.
I have nothing to report.
Trustee Black.
Just two things. Welcome packet that I delivered to villagers. And then the beautification award, we're putting that on hold in the interest of communication. We'll see what's going to happen to it next. That's it.
For that matter, on the new residents, could someone reach out to the Maryland and Taylor, the one that took the,
Yeah.
could someone just mention to them about leaves? They're used to a city where you put the leaves out on the curb. I don't know if anyone's seen that.
Nobody's talked to them yet?
Yeah, they got a pile of leaves out in the front.
Okay. All right. Is that in their welcome packet?
I don't think so.
I think it is.
Oh, really?
Leave? Yeah, there's a whole page about garbage, recycling, and leaves, and branches.
Just mention it to
Just
them.
refer that to them, refer them to that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Trustee Hinkle.
Nothing to report.
You're usually to my left. This is
I know, right?
Trustee Johnson.
Nothing to report, we skipped cancer.
Oh, sorry, trustee Gander. I'm sorry. Please.
I'll go in the car and cry later.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're having a Christmas party on Saturday. We'll see what our turnout is. It was in the newsletter. If you are available and you'd like to come, great. The hall is decorated. There should be, we're just looking for people to chat, and then a few kids games, crafts. Jen and I are doing cookie decorating, but this year it'll be, you get a bag with cookie and the frosting and the sprinkles, so they'll take it back to their spot and decorate it right there rather than just like a free-for-all. And we will be collecting for Halo. So if anybody has any winter clothes or anything, if they want to bring coats, mittens, gloves, hats, that would be great. So Jen and I are on it. Pat we will miss, she will not be there because she has some concerts, and but if anybody else is able to be there, are you coming with your kids or no? It's okay if you're not. But when I was looking at prizes for children, I was thinking about your brood, so. Okay, excellent.
Thank you. And this is nice. I don't know who all was involved in this, but thank you.
Jen and Charlotte did a majority, my 8-year-old, and Jen and I came on Sunday night, so yay, looks great.
Looks great.
Yeah, so turned out well.
Thank you. Trustee Rude, did I get Johnson here?
Sorry.
Sorry. Trustee Rude?
All revenues this past month, November, was about $2,200. Things are going well that way. Did the normal reconciliations, and that's it.
Administrator Jenkins.
All right. So we just saw each other not too long ago, so I didn't have too much in my report. The big thing is that it's tax time now, so it's my opportunity to talk to residents when they come in with big smiles on their face because they can't wait to give us money. But honestly, two points. One, it's been really busy already just this first week of collecting taxes. And two, everybody is pretty content and happy and talkative. It's been nice. I commented with a couple neighbors that maybe are not normally the happiest in the world that have come in and have said a lot of good things about what we've been doing lately. So that's nice. It gives confirmation and warm fuzzies for me, and I hope it does for you guys as well. You saw the newsletter went out. There's a lot of good information in there, so village residents, make sure you check that out. We did receive the first pool of monies for the LRIP grant that we had applied for. This is reimbursement monies for the roads. So we got $17,000 of that. We're expecting the rest fairly soon. We still have that one tourism grant hung out there that we're supposed to hear back in December. That was for capital projects for the complex. So we'll wait to hear about that. And then I did want to go through your budget actual sheet that everybody has. I don't always go through it every month, but I just kind of want to highlight a couple items that just to notice at year end. So license and permits, you'll see that we went up about $3,000, $4,000 in permit revenues, so that's where you see. Building 2, you'll see that we budgeted 0 in revenues, got $25,000 because we had new tenants that came in, and now another one. Building 3, just looking at hall and gym rentals, you see that we budgeted $16,000, we're up $11,000 in rentals, which is awesome, and again, thanks to Kendall Barrier. Miscellaneous revenues, you'll see a lot of that is the various grants and monies that we've acquired and been pulling into that account. On the expense side, you'll see that we didn't spend too much on events this year, which is just fine, because that rolls over the next year for Ally and her group to use. The attorney fees, you'll see that was a little bit more usage, but I think we've used it a lot more wisely probably this year than in years past, so I'm comfortable with that. Maintenance, you'll see that there's an increase to those costs. That's just for the payroll changes that you guys have implemented, and we've now budgeted for that the next year. Taylor Complex spent a little more money than we originally planned, but again, we're investing more of those dollars next year as well. Then the various, the various utilities, you see kind of fluctuate. We had some that were higher than we estimated, and some that were a lot lower, so all kind of washed out and wasn't too bad. Public safety was right on the money, public works was right on the money. And then the only other one is other expenses. You see a little miscellaneous light item. That's where things like if we had to do a special assessment onto somebody's property to remediate something, or bookkeeping things, or pay fire dues, all that stuff that we didn't have a spot for goes there. we now do have a spot for it in next year's budget. So that's it. Otherwise, year end, I guess I want to give you a more conservative number. We're looking at probably a surplus of 60, 70,000 at the end of the year, which again is miles from where we were just a couple years ago. So good job, everybody.
Just, I have a question.
Yeah.
That special assessment that was put against that house, did you follow up on that?
Yep, it still gets paid.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right.
Did you say we used all of that money?
That's what we used. Okay, that's what I thought, and I was reading this wrong way then. Okay.
It's not including the receipts you just gave me.
Yes, perfect, that's fine, and that's fine.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, then, moving on, new business, item 8, approval of the 2022-23 election inspectors. Chris, please.
Yeah, so every 2 years, we either appoint or reappoint election inspectors for the following 2 years. These people that you should have in the packet then go through a 2-hour training with me in January, and then we release them to the wolves, so to speak, for the elections coming up next year. We have 4 elections next year, and then 2 elections a year after that. This is everybody who's on your list, and I would recommend approving them, because they're all great people.
Questions? This one's pretty straightforward. All right, then if there is no further discussion, I'll ask again, regardless. We'll look for a motion to approve the 2022-23 election inspectors.
Make a motion to approve the 2022-3 election inspector.
That'll work.
Thank you.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
First by Johnson, second by Gasser. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? You guys have it, so passed. And I did forget to ask for discussion, so aye. All right. Next item, discussion and possible action on overnight parking for 3508 Maryland Avenue. So, Chris, could you summarize? You've got the best
Oh,
narrative
sure.
of this.
So in June of last year, when this started, we had a couple residents who were requesting overnight parking. If you remember, you guys talked about overnight parking permits and having those. That kind of what brought up that discussion. In the process of doing that, we looked at our ordinances, and the board had decided they wanted to clean up the ordinances to make everything uniform as far as overnight parking, winter parking, and things like that were concerned. So we talked about it in June. In July, we specifically were going to address the ordinance for Dennis in regards to his property at 3508 Maryland Avenue. Prior to September of last year, there was a specific ordinance in the book just regarding his property that allowed parking in front of his property. So notice was sent to him in July. We did not hear back from Dennis. The board actually recognized that, recognized his absence, and so you guys tabled that item to September. We sent another notice, and then September is when the board acted to remove that from the code. So by doing that, it made everything uniform altogether. The 3 reasons that were pointed to, and it's not just for Dennis, but it was you desired uniformity throughout the village to make everybody equal, increase road safety at night, and do the plowing, and because the board was not interested in any sort of overnight parking permits. So for those reasons, that's why that was removed from the ordinances. Since then, Dennis, I believe you received 2 tickets since that time? Yeah, so 2. Dennis came into my office and asked about it. I explained the history to him. He had missed those notices. And so he had asked in his letter, which was in your agenda packet, that we revisit it and discuss. And he is here. He can share more details if I missed anything.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't know about trying to contact me before, obviously. But once I got that last ticket, I was keen to see you immediately,
Yep.
like the next day. So at that property, you've had permission for what, going on 44 years? You know, when we first moved there in 1977. For obvious reasons, we got a really dinky 11.5 foot driveway. And I can put a car there, but it's gonna be on an incline, and I hate to have it there for so long, and I'm blocking the sidewalk too. And now I feel guilty about blocking the sidewalk, so I get up at 6 AM to move the car back in the street, so. And, I can't use the garage, got my other car in there, so. And I am living on the widest street too, so the car has never been a problem getting hit or anything in 44 years, never been a problem with snowplow, I'm very vigilant with that, because if I wasn't, I'd have to go out there and shovel it to park the car on the street. So, and basically it's only for 4 hours, 2 to 6. It's not really bothering anybody. And I think I have the most unique driveway in the whole village. So, that's why I'd like to ask for the exception that was granted back in 1977, so. Is there anything else I need to tell you, or?
No, if anyone has any direct questions, please.
Is there anybody else in the village who has a comparable or somewhat comparable situation?
That's the problem though, is that people have argued, there's similar things to what you're saying, is that they've got another car. Mr. Johnson, I'll use him as an example,
Right,
he was saying he has
right.
multiple vehicles.
Right,
He wanted to, and that was the same thing he used to try and get multiple vehicles in the situation.
but he
And then-
doesn't have the limitations so far as the ability to park another car off the street.
No, they're totally unique properties in that. And again, just like when we look at exceptions to
Yeah,
zoning ordinance, it's the same thing, there's the same exception. The difference is that parking in the street becomes a very uniform item, because everyone the act of parking in the street becomes the same. That's the issue we were having with people that were coming in and complaining about not being able to park in the street or overnight parking. And that's when we started talking about the overnight parking, and we went in the direction of not having overnight parking permits.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I guess my question is there genuinely anybody else that doesn't have an option B?
That's hard to say.
It's kind of an important
Because,
question.
and just playing devil's advocate, everyone knows my side on this. I was for the parking, but as a board, we made a decision, so I'm representing that decision.
Right,
Someone would argue then, well, why do you have 2 cars there if you have a property that only accommodates 1? That's part of the argument that we had with Mr. Johnson, is that, well, why do you have so many cars then if your property can't
He's got a lot of
accommodate?
cars, yeah.
I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, got it. So there's nobody else who has something that's structural on their property?
I
that really-
can't think of one.
But as you say, if you had 1 car, it would not be an issue, it's a 1-car garage. But from a structural point of view, there is nobody else, I don't think.
I agree with
It's
that.
unique.
I mean, I pull into the alley and I see it all the time. I mean, it's not an ideal situation for you or for people using the sidewalk.
Yeah, and a short driveway.
It is the shortest
Yeah.
driveway.
My concern is after we made such an issue about uniformity in this,
Right.
which I do believe is good, to be very
Yeah,
honest.
absolutely, I voted for it.
I have,
This is a sticky situation. I would very much like to accommodate you, and I'm sure everyone else here would, but we're conflicted with what we've previously done.
Do we know if we took it off of the table because he didn't show up? I'm just
Yeah,
curious.
yeah.
Is that why? That we
He
just,
was-
So it was
You were out of
tabled and
town.
then it died.
it was
I
tabled.
just didn't know about it.
Right.
But you were out of town, I think you were out of town for that first one. I can't remember.
I don't remember either. That's why I asked.
Yeah.
Somebody was out of town for a similar situation,
Right.
so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if I known that, I would go and see Chris right away or something,
So are we really saying there are 2 violations rather than 1? If there's a car in the street and there's also a car on the sidewalk?
We actually don't have any ordinance that says you can't block the sidewalk, because there's really only that road, that section.
All right,
There's only 2 houses that actually have, or 3, the pseudo alley to the south, that cross the sidewalk.
right.
So it's another unique situation.
As soon as I said that, I realized that, but we don't have
yeah.
it.
And like I said, I feel kind of guilty blocking the sidewalk. I have weird hours. I work during the night, I go to sleep, and I get up in the afternoon. And that's why I've been getting up at 6 to move the car, because I don't have to be sleeping,
know, because I've tried to contact you a few times, you're never home.
Not about this, but.
You know,
I work
last year.
very odd hours, so.
Yeah, well, you're working.
And again,
I guess you know
I
what.
mean, I was up when the sheriff gave me a ticket, you know, like at 4:30 AM, knocking at his little window to scare him half to death.
Yeah.
He was like a new guy, so.
writing it into the ordinances, I don't know about that. What we were talking about before is, you know, the board had the ability to make exceptions, which was essentially what yours previously was, and then it was codified under former President Biden. So, I believe it was Biden, correct me if I'm wrong. So, we're kind of going back to looking at then making an exception if we want to go that route. The problem with doing that
Sure, always.
is, you know,
Set precedent.
the next meeting, it's a sticky situation. I mean, I totally sympathize with you, I really do.
And show the next person a picture of my driveway, say match this.
But then the problem is, then you'll have everyone else, I'm telling you, with the same vigor and more.
We
if
got a
anything.
family that love showing pictures. No.
Well,
I'm, you know,
does anyone have any ideas? Because
so
this is a tough one for me.
You know what?
if we grant one exception, then we gotta,
You have to grant other exceptions,
Okay.
essentially.
and I don't agree, and I.
You
I'm
don't
a-
have to,
You
but,
don't have to unless there's something that is the same situation.
yeah, and there's no,
If there's one that's the same.
yeah,
then do
exactly,
it.
like when we do
That's equality.
zoning variance, when we talked about that, allowing one person to have a variance does not mean everyone gets a variance, because every situation is unique.
Right.
So, this is an absolutely unique situation we have here, but, now, me playing devil's advocate again,
Yeah.
you're gonna have people contesting that like the zoning ordinance item was contested.
Is
So
there
you
some
know what,
kind
here's my question. Why, we go back to when we made that, when we all voted for it, and I voted for it also. What was the reason we wanted all the cars off the street?
It was safety, it was,
Plowing,
No
skid
plowing.
tree.
the plowing, we could really go after with just, you know, a snow ordinance. But it was safety, it was the size of the streets, so the average width of our street is 22 feet.
Yeah.
If you go through Racine, you'll see they're much larger than that, where they
Yeah.
do have parking. So that was cited. The overall aesthetics of it, people were
Yeah.
concerned about cars, you know, just being stored on the street essentially. Again, I'm just saying what the reasons
right.
were, I'm not picking
Even
anyone's
on
side.
my street, if you were to park, when people park on the street, all right, and they park in front of me, it's hard for me to get in and get out,
Right,
Yeah.
you know, and it's wider than this street here,
yeah.
you know?
And they can do that during the day,
Very- yeah.
but the argument was that if they
Yeah.
do it overnight and people can just leave a car in the street, well, then you're more likely to have that in spades.
Yeah.
I think they talked about safety aspect.
There was
There
safety,
like-
plowing, all sorts of winter stuff, so,
Yeah, and
At
then
the end of the day-
also fire.
you know, there's no ordinance that says that you can't block a sidewalk.
Yeah, but that was,
Well, what's the safety?
it's a gray area because like,
Safety.
But there's
in
no ordinance.
Racine, you would have that ordinance. It's just a,
You can't get ticketed for, if you parking there and you kind of blocking the the sidewalk.
yeah, but I'm just speaking practically now, I see as I'm driving out, I'm playing devil's advocate for everyone, don't hate me at the end of this, but I see kids that walk and use that section of
Mhm.
sidewalk, as
Yeah.
Maryland is a main trunk, so
Yeah,
they'll use
yeah.
that sidewalk to get to the corner of
Yeah.
Maryland and Taylor.
So in terms of safety then, then we have a safety hazard for children during the school year.
I'd agree with that.
Okay, so if we're going to grant anything, it has to be, in my opinion, it's gonna be granted due to the school year, children walking in that street, and the risk at children and adults walking their kids to school.
But don't
So
they
it could be
walk-
probably granted, an exception could be granted during day one of school, last day of school, right?
Yeah.
And after that, you cannot park in the street.
I'd further argue that then if it's not just used only during the school year, there's people that walk their dogs and whatnot, so
Well-
following that same logic,
When
then,
you walk your dog, that's on you.
well, you see what I'm
I
saying,
don't-
is that it's a sidewalk.
People walk the
People
damn-
walk on it.
People have sidewalks and they're walking the freaking street. Kids don't have sidewalks and you go to these schools and they're walking in the middle of the damn street.
Right.
I
I
mean,
mean,
so,
even if I did, man, if I could park over the sidewalk, like I said, I feel guilty, you
Right.
know, blocking people
In
and
fact,
I
they.
don't want nobody giving my car a stink out during the day, you know.
Well, and the truth is, who can walk to school without being on the street? That's one of the few sidewalks there are. Almost everything else is street.
This is a really stupid
It's
idea.
a tough one.
This is a really stupid idea, just a thought. When is that street being done at all?
Not for a while. That one most likely gonna stay as is because of changing
I just
setbacks and whatnot.
Do you know where the house is that has the parking in front on the street? You know what I'm talking about?
By Artie's sister's house, that they
Yes.
park halfway out
I'm like,
into the
maybe could
road.
we just make a little alcove for him because, but that's not gonna work.
It's horrible.
See a couple years from
Cars
now.
sticking halfway into the road.
That's a hard one to do on his.
I know, I figured, that's why I said it was a really stupid idea, but I thought I'd just say it.
And that street is one of the widest in the village, I mean, and across, I think. And one with the only curves too, I believe, right?
Yeah, that's the only one with curves right now. And I was wrong about the sidewalks. We do have sidewalks on Taylor on the east side going north from Maryland. so-
You call it that.
Oh, yeah.
kind of,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Phew.
Yeah, there are.
see, the only,
well, it really comes down to, if you're gonna make an exception here, we have to have, I'd like to see a better process. This is the issue we had before, is that, you know, we can, through variance request, make a variance to the ordinance.
Can you do anything like a grandfather clause? I mean,
Whenever we say safety, you don't really get grandfathered when it's a safety item, you know what I mean? And it's an ordinance, you know, it's not like you build something, that's really what grandfathering comes into, is when you build something and then the ordinance changes on the construction, that's an appropriate application of grandfathering.
Here's a way to look at it, I was just thinking, so if people are using that sidewalk and they're walking west,
Right.
and there's a car in the way, they transition from the sidewalk to the street without potentially looking behind themselves. You see what I'm saying?
I'm guessing.
So that would be a potential safety issue too. If there's a car blocking the sidewalk and you have to avoid the car by going out into the street.
Well,
As opposed to
I think most
knowing-
of us have established that there is a legitimate concern here.
Yeah,
It's just, what is the vehicle, no pun intended, you wanna go about addressing it?
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, you're right. You're right.
I have a question. You say you have a car stored in your garage.
yeah.
Can you find other storage for that and then just put your car in the garage? I
Mostly
think that would be
no,
a,
and the car, I always park on the street, or half now, wouldn't fit in there. I have a Mustang in the garage, and all I have left, I can fit my lawnmower right behind it, and then there's the garage door.
okay.
So this, the Corolla, is longer than the Mustang. So I don't even know if it actually, I never even tried to put it in there.
Yeah.
To me, it just looked like it wouldn't fit.
Okay. 'cause
And I
I
was
was
trying to
thinking
put
that
my
would be
lawnmower
much.
and, yeah, I don't even think it would fit in there. I think it'd hit the door sensor. So, no, it wouldn't be an option for me to store one car and, you know.
And how does this intersect with the snow regulations? I mean, it has to be off the street certain times anyway, does it not, for snow?
Then it goes into the driveway. I've
Oh,
seen
one
that.
other thing, if I could fit the Corolla, I think I'd scrape the heck out of the front end. You know, because that has a little lower grill thing on it than my Mustang.
Does,
Because
because,
of how I gotta go down the incline, you know, out of the garage. Because I used to scrape one of my other cars' fronts, they had a little plastic thing on the bottom, which didn't matter, but it wasn't actually.
I try not to look at it that way, because then you'll get into arguments about, you know, are we gonna be going out into people's garages and
Yeah.
measuring them? I mean,
Right.
I don't wanna start
You
doing
don't want to
that.
start
I
controlling.
agree, I agree.
You're right.
Lou, were you saying before it's more of a safety concern for the kids?
If
If he's parking?
If it could be proven that in this case, it becomes a safety issue because of number of kids that are walking to school and from school, then I think that if it can be proven, and I don't know what that legally looks like, then I think that the board could come back and grant something during the school year, if it can be proven.
This
Okay.
is the other thought I have, is driving that way and out of the village every day on the way to school, because I pass by your house,
Mhm.
come around the corner, go right by your house every day. That house is on a hill, and that is kind of a blind corner in a
Then
respect.
we can entertain
A little bit,
signs.
I mean, I am fully for 11,
Yeah.
so.
So we can
To me, I
entertain,
feel like there are times that I can't see when a car is coming in the village, and that yield sign is far back, that, it's pretty far back, that even if I stopped at the yield sign, you still can't see the cars around.
and here's
but
my
that's
thing,
just something I noticed.
can we entertain signs, understanding that we have idiots that either don't live in the village or live in the village regardless, and they fly through there.
Right.
You know, so I get it, but can we prove, for safety reasons, are we gonna be required signs? Are we gonna have to put a speed bump on there to slow people down because of safety issues? You know,
Well, let's, for right now, this is something that I think we need to think on a little bit further. My recommendation, right now, we grant a 1-month temporary variance where he can park. We gotta figure this one out. I'd like to see some ideas come in.
Okay.
And then Chris and I will work on what are the best two. And then at the next meeting, we can see if we wanna move forward with one of those ideas.
so are we
We don't like
prepared,
it,
are we prepared to grant a 2-week variance or a 1-month variance to others that come here with safety issues or concerns?
Well,
if, you
Okay.
they could, I don't see why not.
Case by case, are we prepared to go to that next step and handle that? I don't have an issue with it, but that's me. Are we as a board prepared to say, the word gets out, I'm gonna come and present this because I think this is a safety issue and I don't wanna park in my, on the street, or I wanna do this or that. So we need to,
Yeah.
open up, if we're gonna open up that box, and we need to be prepared.
I do think
And
though,
you,
he
it would
has,
be opening up.
if you think of anybody else though, he has the shortest driveway.
And that's fine, but everybody else doesn't give a damn.
Right.
About his driveway.
I would stand up and say, he has
You
the
know?
shortest driveway of
And
anyone.
that, we
Nobody else
can, we can validate that
Right,
if we have proper documentation.
right.
And we take the proper steps. We can verify and validate all that, all right? But we need to actually find a way that to prove legally that it can be taken care of. There is a safety risk. What can we do to prevent any issues? Should we come back in a month and say, no, we're gonna stay, we're not gonna grant this exception, right? But we're going to do X, Y, and Z to provide safety, follow the safety measures. Are we gonna do that? You see what I mean? So whatever we decide, sir, it's are we going to continue, granting, you that exception? Or are we going to provide safety measures and grant that, or one or the other, or the above? All right.
Well, right now, this one, I just say, he went 44 years with it. Okay, so now you're getting ticketed for it, now you're aware. We did send out notice, so I will say that, because we can't say that everyone that just didn't open the mail or whatnot wasn't aware. We've had that come up before. So we'll say now, we're fully acknowledging it, you're acknowledging it, we got.
Oh, I've been moving the car ever
Okay.
since I talked to Chris,
So,
He's the
again,
sheriff up there, and-
on this issue, when people approach us, just because someone declares something a safety issue, does not automatically make it a safety issue.
It doesn't.
We determine.
But they're going to come and.
You are 100% right on that.
That
Yeah,
piece.
sure.
So I just see a handful of people,
Mhm.
So this, right now, it's a temporary variance to figure out a situation.
that's perfect. That's perfect. I get it.
But in a month, then you gotta be comfortable with that decision, because then you really open the box.
I get it. I just want, what's your name again, sir?
Dennis.
Mr. Dennis, to understand where we're coming from and be on the same sheet of music that we're on.
Yeah.
We get the year, we get all that stuff, but this is a bigger picture. And we have to make sure that all bases are covered.
That's true.
So I was just thinking in my head about enforcement, and I believe that was the other comment that came up last year. Because you have to think about from the sheriff's department
Mhm.
perspective, every new officer who comes to this
Yeah,
village,
They don't know.
they have one blank, or I would say, one uniform ordinance book, and all of our stuff is inputted, into their code. I think I remember, and I guess I can verify when I tell them about this extension, that it was difficult for them to police this.
Yeah.
So I guess we have to keep that in mind as we brainstorm ideas.
So you're gonna be busy because he gets another ticket because you got, young Cupcake over here as his first day, comes to visit a ticket. And then you gotta go through all the paperwork to get that cleared. And then you gotta follow up with him to make sure it doesn't show on your records. So that's a trail.
Well, that actually isn't too hard on our part because we just talked to our attorney and we dismiss any tickets that
Yeah,
were
but who
issued.
pays for it?
Well,
Every time you
right,
talk to the attorney, who's gonna pay for that?
Yeah.
we do,
That's-
but
So, that's the bigger picture, now we're adding.
for how much we actually talk to the attorney versus that particular item, that's a
You know,
drop on the
okay, I'm
bucket.
just-
Yeah.
That is good to know, but.
No, I get what you're saying, but that one's actually pretty easy.
Okay, cool.
What, this is what we're going back to the issue we had before with that, something, the board says this, okay, well, there's nothing hanging in the window, there's nothing that outlines a process where a person can get an exemption, so that's something we have to talk about next month, is what is that process? Because ideally, the person should have something that shows they have an exemption, so that there's no question. A new officer can drive by the car, see something hanging in the window. But then so will everyone else who drives by and sees that there's been an exemption granted to
So,
your vehicle.
so to me, when we're talking about this with you, it's like talking about why can't we have an RV in our driveway during the RV month, RV season, or a camper during camping season? Why can't we have a boat in our driveway
Worry about
during this
me having an RV in my
season, that
driveway.
season? It just brings back those
Yes.
sour conversations.
But I do think that is like apples to oranges. I don't.
That
think
was
that's-
still, it just.
I know, because I had,
To you, it will be.
I had
not
to
to
sell my,
go
I had
take
to sell my boat.
love,
I had to sell my
boating,
boat.
and camping, right?
Right.
And I'm not gonna open it, but just so that you understand this conversation, oof.
I mean, with the
Like the
sheriff, just keep in mind, 44 years, 2 tickets,
Yeah.
I even talked to the sheriff's middle of the night when they see me out shoveling or something.
Yeah.
They go, yeah, I just figured you could park in the street, because I look at your driveway, most get it, And I bet, through all the administration since 77, I always wondered if the sheriffs would even remember, after all those years and stuff. And just recently, we got a new guy out there and he changed the ordinance and stuff, I started getting a ticket, so.
But I agree with Lou because we had this problem before where we had residents,
Compare apple with oranges.
yeah, and saying, hey, there are other people who are
Yeah.
parking on the street.
Yeah,
And then
those are
they-
like weird overnight guests, since I'm up at night, I notice when somebody parks in front of my house and starts running down the street somewhere, or running down the alley to visit somebody in the middle of the night, I've called the sheriff on them, mainly only in the winter because of snow. Summer,
But, they come to
whatever,
the
yeah.
board and they're saying, we're making exceptions for other people, why not me?
Just give them a picture of my driveway.
Yeah,
But-
and
That's easier said than done.
I know.
On the sign coming into the
Tell them to
village, it
switch
says-
driveways with me, I'll go park in their nice long driveways and they can deal with mine,
Yeah.
Residents have previously said that in response to something like that, well then, sell your house.
Gotta sell my boat.
I'm telling you.
That's
you know
they'll
what,
say.
that's why we're the ones who are here, and Laura's right. Then probably will be people who will say, why not mine, which would mean, and as Lou said too, if we choose to allow variance, we better know exactly why we're doing it. So
Yes.
that anyone else comes, we can say, do you have this, do you have this, because these are the only reasons we do
Yes.
that. And I think that would eliminate, but you're right, unless we do that, and Laura's right.
We just have to, it's not
Very
against you,
specific.
sir, it's just, we just have to make sure that we continue on track, and that, so when somebody leaves here, they know that they were treated equally. And
Right.
equally means, we follow the book, and the exception is granted on X, Y, and Z,
Those are the,
and that's an exception.
I get it, after all the years listening to my mom talk about the board meetings and stuff, I've heard it all, but,
There's no way.
Again-
Parking in the alley, right?
I get it, sir.
11.5 driveway I work with isn't much.
So-
yeah.
And there's no, it's not wide enough for.
Can I just ask, is your Mustang, is it like a collectible, right, that you just rarely take out, and that's why you keep it in the garage, or?
Yeah, it's from 96, it's still mint condition practically.
So I just asked that, because that's comparable to, like, you were asking about the recreational things, like your boats and your trailers, I mean, those are things that you rarely use. And when we address that in storing on properties,
Mhm.
we don't allow those types
No.
of vehicles anywhere else, unless stored in the garage.
Yeah.
He is storing them in the garage, so I wouldn't give him that. But I don't know, maybe you can look at the Mustang kind of like that same way.
That's still a vehicle I use,
Okay.
So, how many in your household? How many in your household?
just me.
Just.
Is it possible, this is again, just kind of thinking outside the box. I'm thinking, down the alley here, you've got Ellis Steinman, okay? He's got the garage, I think he's got 2 spaces, and I think he's got something next to it. I wonder if you could make some type of an arrangement with him, just to say, hey, can I park there? I don't know if you give him $20 a month or something like that, whatever, maybe. He'd probably say, forget it, I mean, it's no problem, you can do what you have to do. But he's just down the alley from you. And that would really solve a lot of the, I mean, it's a little bit of a walk, but you're a young guy, you need the exercise anyway, so you can get out there, you walk to, your house from the car, and that might settle it. I mean, I know his wife recently died, he doesn't have the 2 cars, but I don't know what the rest of the board thinks about that, but it's just like I said, kind of thinking outside the box.
It's a good idea.
It creates insurance issues,
Okay.
if you slip on his property, he's going to that party, I don't like
Or are those spaces
Things
on
like
his
that,
property or
yeah.
are those spaces in the alley?
his
The alley
property.
is-
And then my car's not somewhere else, it's not right in front of me. I work during the night in my kitchen, because I got a little office going there. And I hear a lot that goes on, any booms or clicks or whatever, and I can look out the window immediately and see what's going on.
You know what happened on Wednesday morning?
Yeah, what happened Wednesday morning? What did you hear at 6
Well, if
a.m.?
it's morning, I'm sleeping.
Oh, 3 in the morning, you probably went, well, maybe I just come.
6 a.m.
Yeah, I mean, if it's 2, 3, 4, 5, okay.
Okay, now,
So-
when
so-
we're thinking of a variance, are we also saying, I mean, when the snowplow comes, everybody needs to be off the road, right?
Yeah.
So,
That doesn't change.
okay, so that would be, you have to be off the road then anyway, just like everybody else, right?
Yes.
That's not up for question. Is there a possibility of the hours that kids are coming and going from school, that he has to be off that road? Would that be a compromise?
Well, technically, right now, he could park then, because that would be outside of the no overnight parking, so then he'd be able to park there now. It's just a matter of now you're getting up at 6 a.m. every day.
And to be fair, I don't know if I would make, I understand the safety argument of the sidewalk, but I don't know if I would make it an issue, because it hasn't been one up
Yeah,
until now.
no.
There's a reason you don't have any ordinances
Yeah.
about parking on sidewalks.
When people drive through the village, it doesn't matter if the damn sidewalk's there
So
or not.
we gotta look at,
Good point.
we really have to look at reports, we have to look at past history, we gotta look at a number of things before we can actually come back to the board and justify any decision.
So what kind of reports would you be looking for? Because I can ask for that from the sheriff's department, but what specifics are we trying to?
Any incidents, any complaints about people blocking the parking, or kids getting hit, dogs getting hit? You
Just
know,
on Maryland?
'cause- Why?
In that-
Well,
that section?
that's what we're talking about. Anybody else, well, we'll worry about it when it comes, but we're talking about Maryland. And I understand it's a busy street.
I think that's valid, I walk there every day, like, I said, in the street, your car's there.
And also keep in mind, it's like, never been an issue for snow for me, ever, for the plows.
Yeah, I've never
gone
complained for Mike.
At least my car's there. Somebody else, I have no control, but.
I've heard complaints from him, but now.
I got a 44-year track record of, as far as I know, no incidences, of being a nuisance on the street or whatever, somebody else could come, I don't know.
So you're saying a month? Are you-
That's just my recommendation.
Yeah.
I could
take
just
a
sit
look
here and wait.
outside.
A month? And
Well,
come
if
back?
we table it, he can get ticketed right now. You'd actually have to make him, you'd have to move to,
Oh,
allow this temporary variance.
variance.
So, I make a motion to allow a temporary variance until the next meeting.
Second.
For the address, what is your term?
35.
3508 Maryland?
35 Maryland.
Maryland Avenue. Table it
Until the next
until the
meeting.
next meeting.
It's not tabling it, you just,
Not, yeah.
we'll revisit this, so then we,
And evidence, solid fact, must be provided.
well, you don't have to make part of the
Okay,
motion.
okay.
That can just, that'll be when we're
Just my
discussing
motion.
it. Okay, so we have a motion, is there a second? I think there was. Was it against or black?
Black.
All right, black. All in favor?
Can I ask a question? So what do you guys want between now and January? What's gonna help you make this decision?
I just think you want some evidence.
So I'll look up the traffic reports for any incidents that happened on Maryland. How far back do you want us to look?
Ask them what's the farthest they can go. I don't think we need to go back further than 3 years, but ask them how far they can go.
Okay.
Secondly, we need to have a, I think Ernie mentioned it earlier, specific, reasons for a
Yes.
variance, like.
Other than the length of the driveway.
Well, yeah, I mean, if that's
You,
probably,
you,
that's one of
you
them.
could,
that's fine.
remember, every situation is unique.
Correct.
People will argue that, but there's no legal recourse or anything
Right.
like that. We don't create a liability by
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah. Some kind of a general,
I don't even know if that would be considered a driveway, truthfully. Like, you can't park in that
Well, if
driveway.
there's evidence or there's something in black and white that states that that is not a legal driveway,
Would you look at that?
then we could guys go from there, Or is there evidence that says
I don't,
that there has to be from the garage door, this is your lane, from the garage door to the street, to be an legal driveway, X amount of feet.
No, he's fine. And if you change anything anyway, that would be the grandfathering you were talking about.
Because-
Once it's built, it's procedural due process, they call it. We can't make you change your house.
no.
That'd be a nice answer, wouldn't it?
I feel bad.
No, thank God those protections exist. To be honest. All right, we have an active motion. Let's close up the motion then. If anyone, I do it this way, if anyone has any additional requests, talk to Chris. I'll be reaching out to a few of you individually. I don't want to make a walking quorum or anything, so don't feel left out, but I'm limited in who I can talk to. So, we have the motion. Any further discussion on it? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, so passed. We will have to talk to the sheriff's department and figure out if they want us to put something in the window at least for now,
I'll
so.
just set a meeting on
Yeah.
that.
All right.
Even if they write it, even if the sheriff, not sheriff, but sheriff could write a letter,
We'll
for
handle.
folks that plowed and we never had any issues, just solid black and white, so that as a board, we have, when somebody comes and they say, you know what, or they come to Chris, because that's who they're gonna come to, or any one of you, hey, listen, we have paperwork, documentation showing why we granted it here, you could look at it, and what are your questions? Drive on, adios, have a good day,
It's just formalizing that process. That's when you
That's
spend
all it
time
is.
on. And determining if this is something we want to do anyway. Okay? Well, you got 1 month, we got to work on it. I'd encourage you to reach out to individuals on the board, even Chris, if you have ideas or ways that you think this could be worked on, anything along those
Try
lines.
and park for another month then?
Yeah, you
Already
got one,
Googling.
you could be good until the next board meeting, and I encourage you to come to the next board meeting too.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you better just start tomorrow, not tonight, just in case.
Yeah,
I can email the sheriff's department tonight and let them know.
but don't expect them to read.
I mean, had I caught the sheriff before he wrote the ticket, he said he would have held off on it,
Well, CC him, Chris, that way he could put something in his windshield sometime that, just.
Well, we'd have to figure out.
Oh, whatever, yeah, okay, all right.
All right, well, you got,
I
you
just
got the
know
month.
I was gonna ask you guys, in case something did change I wasn't aware of, he was a nice guy, so, but he already wrote the ticket, so.
Well, that's it for now.
The next meeting is January 13th, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask one unrelated question?
Sure, why not?
Are they done putting up the stakes, those big vinyl ones?
Yes,
Did they change the pattern this year?
yes, we have a new snowplow contractor.
Okay, because I noticed there was none around my property as they normally were.
Yeah, I noticed like the
Yeah.
curbs and things like that, where there's curved areas, usually what they do is they slowly edge into it. Mike just did it because he wanted to, but usually where there's curves like that, they just edge into it and they put
I
one
mean,
on the
usually they're
ends.
pretty good, but once in a while, there'll be 3 to 4 feet of snow, waving the curb, and I'm not as young as I used to be to dig out that mailbox anymore, but,
I can mention it to him, just to
Yeah.
help you out, to be honest.
yeah,
All right?
okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Dennis, bring your Mustang to the car show.
Bring your Mustang.
to the car show next year.
Yeah, that'll be a condition. You don't bring any booze in.
You have to be, yep, you have to come to the car show with your Mustang, or that's it.
Sounds like a good.
All right,
It's like,
then
what are
moving
you
on.
talking about, you crazy?
That's next item.
Thank you.
Approval of accounts payable. Has everyone had a chance to review and sign? No, you didn't?
No.
If you need a minute.
That is great.
All right, we have reviewed them, as we always do.
And make it pass all your hands, real good.
All right, then we'll look for a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve accounts payable?
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
First by Gasser, second by Johnson. Discussion. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? You guys have it so fast. All right, next item, very exciting item. Item D, a motion to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 1985C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, and performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, which is the village administrator review. Just a note, we will dismiss from closed session. So, looking for a motion.
Motion to go into closed session?
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Aye.
First by Johnson, second by Barrios. Roll call. Oh, that needs, is there discussion? Yeah, I mean, if you want. Is there any discussion? All right, then roll call.
Hinkle, aye.
Clark, aye. Gasser, aye.
Rossi, aye.
Rude, hi.
Johnson.
There is none.
And we're in closed session, please.